Good afternoon, Jan.
Michael, good afternoon.
I'm
How are you?
doing good, doing good. Yeah, starting a little bit late because I was so excited I had to get something in just before getting ready.
No problem.
Yeah,
In general, it's me who's late. Uh, so,
yep, yeah. But yeah, I got a fresh new feature that I thought that I would just be getting started on last night,
mm,
but it turned out to be uh, you know such a. I mean, it's a big feature, but all the pieces are already there, and so I was able to get it mostly finished last night, and then
mm.
this morning was just wrapping it up and getting it ready to
and
actually
then
try it out.
what is that? What is that feature? Unpurge?
Wow, that would be magical. Um, no, the
Mm,
feature is rule sets. So you can record a set of rules, authorization rules, distribution rules, and purge conditions, and put them into a
mm.
file, and then load that file into a replicator.
Replicator. Okay.
So yeah, this is to allow you to use um, the Docker image
Mm,
and deploy your own stuff to it. So
okay.
yeah,
So in fact, the whole configuration is then just one file.
yep, yep, exactly.
Mm,
Yeah, and I even made it possible to merge files together. So if you wanted to organize things, in
mm,
folders, different files, however you wanted to organize them, it'll just rip through a directory structure, find all the rule files, and merge them together into one
mm.
big rule set, and then run the replicator according to those rules.
So if you would have a single replicator for multiple projects, you could just have for each product a separate rule set.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I imagine this being useful in um, an enterprise setting. So
Mm,
we've got lots of different apps that we are deploying, lots of different microservices. So it's like, okay, these are the rule sets for the front end. Um, so this controls what people can see through the web and through mobile apps, and
mm,
these are the rule sets for those various applications that are for the core, for the um, all the microservices, um, and then maybe even a separate rule set for each of the different the different functions. So this
mm.
function is only concerned with this small part of the model, so it's probably just one rule set, but yeah, it only wants a piece of it. So rather than deploying the whole rule set to its replicator, just have a subset of the rules that are useful for that thing. That gives you that extra layer of protection, so that um, even if somebody did put rogue code somehow on that node,
Mm.
that replica couldn't pull anything it wasn't authorized to do.
Okay. No, at least then you don't have a big mess like in some firewalls where
Yeah.
you have rules for that and rules for that. Everything is mixed together,
Mm-hmm.
and then something changes in the configuration. They forget to take out the rules, and in the end, nobody knows why a certain rule is there.
Yep. 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 So I want to give you all of the tools that you need in order to manage those rules. Avoiding a mess is really still up to you,
Mm,
um, but by removing the code that's you don't have to deploy code to a replicator. Whereas in a microservices architecture, you're deploying code to the various nodes. You're deploying code to your API, deploying code to in the form of a schema to a database.
mm.
Maybe even some stored procedures and triggers and actual code, things that execute. Um, and it's like, no, these are just configuration, and that's all you can deploy to a replicator. Um, so it should be easier to reason about. That's the goal.
And you cannot have for example, if you have the same rule in both sets, that is not a problem. It just because they overlap completely.
Uh, I didn't test that.
Mm.
um, it shouldn't be a problem. Um, but yeah, that would be a good test. Yeah, I'll add that to the test
Mm.
suite. Yeah, if you define the same rule twice, do you get just one rule in the end? I think you would get a copy of that rule, the way it's currently written, and it it shouldn't have any negative consequences other than taking up more memory and taking more time because it's going to
Mm.
run that rule multiple times. Uh, but um, but yeah, it would be best uh, to detect that and do a proper merge, um,
But
where it
another
doesn't.
unit test.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The intention, the idea, the typical path is that each rule set is going to be unique to a kind of a namespace within your application.
Mm.
Um, so there's nothing there um, that constrains that right now. But maybe at some point there will be, so that at the top of a rule set you say this is for this particular namespace, and now all the rules have to apply to just those facts. And then when it merges them, maybe it can say, oh, namespace collision, I can't have two different rule sets for the same namespace, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I can imagine that you have facts for one application, facts for the other, but then facts that are shared between multiple applications.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I would, the convention that I would use is that I would give those shared facts a completely different namespace than the other two. Um,
mm.
you don't even have to nest the other two into that shared namespace. Um, but but yeah, that does bring up an interesting point. Is that if I do have that kind of constraint, that means that even though the rules don't apply to the shared namespace, they will still reference facts from the shared namespace as they walk through the graph. So so yeah, it'll be an uh, interesting thing to explore, to see what's going to be useful.
Let's see when we get that
Yeah,
far.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So how has your week been?
I used my week to catch up a little bit on all the things which I didn't do, except except for Jinaga, uh, in order to end the year
Mm-hmm.
with not much things which have not been done.
Yes.
Um, Not everything has been done yet, but at least a few things which are on my list
Mm-hmm.
is clear because I want to profit for. I want to profit by the end of the year of to clear up things because otherwise the list gets longer and longer, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's a little bit a more quiet period.
Yeah.
Uh, this week was relatively quiet, and I think next week most of the companies uh, they don't close, but most of the people have other things on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless there are emergencies,
Yeah.
I will have some time to clear up everything.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. If these companies are raising livestock, well, the livestock doesn't doesn't care about your Christmas holiday. They still need to be
Mm.
taken care of.
Yeah, because like for DWS, it's used in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are still people working. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, everybody not, but all the administration around it. But DWS is used in dispatching. So
Mm-hmm.
if there is a problem there, they will call me.
Yeah.
But okay,
Yeah. Can't take a break for the holidays.
wow. Let's say that we had all the problems already this year, so
Yes.
um,
Yes.
only the good things now.
Yeah, that is statistically likely since we've had most of the year already. So therefore, most of the problems.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me see if I can pull up some code. I haven't even pulled the branch onto this machine yet, so let's get things all set up. Okay, so I'm going to start the Zoom and do that share. And then also going to switch. Oh, goodness. So many buttons to click. All right, switch. There we go. So that everybody else can see. All right. So,
See all
yeah,
the work that
this.
you did the last weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, this was actually an improving you course. So I don't know. I might turn this into something else. But we were practicing with Entity Framework and writing better link statements for EF. So that's a fun little exercise. But we're not here for that. We're here for. So let's do. We want the Jinaga Replicator. No. Oh, do I not have Jinaga Replicator? Interesting. Okay, so let's clone from the Jinaga
Oh, there is.
repository.
Okay, ghash is for GitHub clone.
Ah, yes. Yeah, so that's the GitHub command line. Oh, it's GitHub repo clone. Yeah, so you can do all sorts of things through the GitHub command line. So I always use repo like we did here, and PR. So you can create and review pull requests from the command line.
Yeah, but the clone, it also exists just in Git, Git clone.
Yes. The reason for GH repo clone is that now you can just give the name of the repo, so that's the organization and the repository, and then it figures out the actual SSH path. So if I go into Jinaga Replicator, then git remote -v, I can see it's git at GitHub : and then puts the .git at the end. So I just have to, don't have to remember that stuff, which is nice. Okay.
Didn't know that. Didn't know that.
So, yes, I trust the authors. All right. So, in this Jinaga Replicator repository, we've got of course, a nice README. This is the same README that is in the Docker hub, so you can read about how to use it. But then there's the actual code for the Jinaga Replicator, and you can see that it's really just using Jinaga server and starting it at the /Jinaga path. That's it. That's all it does. So if we go to the terminal, and I know why I hadn't pulled this before. This is PowerShell. Let me go to Ubuntu. I'll bet you I pulled it in Linux. That's how I like to work with this kind of stuff. So go to the projects, go to Jinaga, and I've got everything under here. So go to Jinaga Replicator. Oh no. Okay. All right. So do the same thing. GS repo clone Jinaga / Jinaga Replicator. And then code dot. And that starts VS Code connected to WSL. There we go. All right. So, but now I've got a Linux a bash prompt. So that is, oops. I am in the Jinaga folder, not in the Jinaga Replicator folder. That's the one that I wanted to be in. I'll get there eventually. Okay. So, still has to connect to WSL. It's taking a little while. When it says opening remote here, remote is just the WSL, the subsystem running on this machine. I'm not sure why that is taking that so long. Well, let's go ahead and kickstart it here. Just reload the window. Okay. There we go. So, now back to this. All right, so here's our index.ts. You can see everything is squiggly because I haven't done the npm CI. So that does the install of all the packages. 0 vulnerabilities. Wow, that is that you don't see that for very long most times. And it's this is the main branch, so this has had 0 vulnerabilities since the last time I committed a main, which is since
there you go.
Well, okay. Okay, but this work is on a different branch, so if I do a git branch -- all, I can see I've got load rule sets is a branch on the server. So in fact, I've already made a PR out of it, so I can do a gh. Yeah, people aren't seeing that terminal. Let me use this one so I can get it up above our pictures. Okay, so Jinaga Replicator. So if I do a gh PR list, so now I am inside of a repo, so it knows which repository I'm talking about, and then it can do it can list all of the pull requests on that repository. So here's load rule sets created about 44 minutes ago, which means I can then say GHPR checkout, and it's number 22, or 20, so I just say 20. And I've switched to the load rule sets branch. So I could have just done that through Git, but since it's a pull request, it knows what we're all about. So now we are on this branch, and so things have changed a little bit. Now when we do a Jinaga server.create, we're setting the authorization, distribution, and purge conditions. And so if we've got a rule set, then we get the authorization, distribution, and purge conditions from that rule set. If we don't, we just leave it as undefined. So that means that if that comes back as undefined, then it's going to have the same behavior as it did before. Now let's make sure that we run CI. That way it'll install the versions of Jinaga that we've got, oh, and now we've got 2 vulnerabilities. I know what those are. Well, let's take a little tangent through there. So if I do an npm audit, it's going to say that there's a regular expression. Okay, that is actually a little bit different. Okay, well, I was getting on GitHub with this PR. I was getting an indication that I was using what's called a polynomial regular expression and passing unprotected data into it. So that's what I was expecting to see here. Turns out it was a false positive. I'm not actually using a polynomial time regular expression. It's linear time. But yeah, this one's different. So let's see if npm audit fix will take care of this. Yep, that took care of it. So that upgraded the express package.
Yeah.
Which has the fix. Okay.
From 1 to 2.
We'll add this to the PR. Okay. So, seeing the changes, they're now part of the PR. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part is how do we get these rules? How do we get this rule set? So, I have added this Jinaga rules environment variable, and that defines your rule set's path. So, load rule set is now this new little function here. So this is just going to recursively find all of the files that end in .rule. So it scans that folder, finds them all. If you don't find any files in that folder, then you return undefined. But if you do find some files, then we're going to load the rule set from each of those files, merge them all together, and give you that merged rule set. So, load it from file, just grab the rule description from the file, load the rule set, nice and simple. So, what does a rule set look like? Well, first of all, the difference between undefined and an empty rule set. Oops. An empty rule set is as strict as possible. There are no authorization rules, so no facts are authorized. You cannot create any facts. There are no distribution rules, so no distribution is allowed. You cannot give it a specification and expect to receive any feeds or read any facts or projections. And so that means completely locked down. This means completely wide open. So the way that this image ships right now, it's completely wide open and there's no way to lock it down. But after this, it ships by default completely wide open, and then you lock it down by having at least one file. So I'm thinking I might want to change that to make it explicit. I want you to be able to experiment. And so that's why, for example, Jinaga server.create, if you leave these things as undefined by just not including them, you get a wide open Jinaga server. That way you can experiment. And then once you're ready to say, okay, I want to start building an application, then you start defining your rules, and then your application will only serve up facts for those rules. So what I'm thinking is that here I will look for some kind of a marker file that does not ship by default. Um, and so out of the box, if you just run the image, then it will refuse to start. It'll say, hey, I don't see any rules. I don't see any marker file. Um, but but then if you do put the marker file in there, then you're saying, okay, I really do want this to be wide open. And that's the case in which it'll return undefined. Or no marker file and just rule files, and then it'll load the rules.
Just when you start up the server, that it says, careful you don't have a rule set. Are you sure you want to have a complete open system? Or do you want to completely close it? And if you say completely close, it generates the rule set, the empty one, and the system is completely locked down.
Yeah, if you run with an empty rule set, then the replicator is useless. It will reject any request.
You cannot do anything. Yeah.
Yep. So it doesn't make sense to run with an empty rule set, but it does make sense to run with some fixed set of rules, or it makes sense to experiment. And then furthermore, this is this is going to be running inside of a Docker container. So typically it won't be able to accept any input, so you wouldn't be able to answer that prompt here. I could output something to indicate that it's running in this mode. In fact, I should go ahead and add that. Anyway, it'd be useful to be able to see it. But I can't rely on the user, the developer seeing that. So that's that's why I'm thinking the marker file, because now that's a way for the developer to express their intent explicitly, and they have to do that right at the beginning. Now the problem, and I might just have to live with this, is that you can get things going with just these two commands. So experimenting is really simple, but if I add the marker file, then this will give you a replicator that throws an exception, and instead, and it fails to start up. But instead, if you wanted to drop the marker file, you would have to do this. So added some documentation to describe how to use the replicator rules directory. So this is if you want to mount a volume. So you've got some rules on your host system, and so -v, you mount that volume to varlib replicator rules, and then the image will look for the rules in that folder. So that's one way you could do it. The other way is to use the Jinaga Replicator as a base image. So you create your own Docker file, load from Jinaga Replicator, and then copy all your rule files into varlib replicator rules. And then that way you don't need to mount a volume, and you've got your rules compiled into your image. So this is probably the mechanism that people would use in a production environment. This mechanism allows you to change the rules on your on your host system, and then just restart the container, and then they will apply. So that's useful for developing with these things. So if you have to have a marker file in order for this thing to start up, then you either have to set that marker file in one of your folders, mount it as a volume, or you have to create your own image that just has the marker file, which means maybe I'll go ahead and create an image that runs wide open, and so it has the marker file already mounted or copied in, and then it will be just a 2-line thing to experiment, but the name of it won't be Jinaga Replicator. It'll be Jinaga Replicator dash do not use in production, whatever. So maybe that's the answer.
And then a second image.
Yes.
No, it depends if you load your own rule set. That the do not run in production remark disappears automatically.
Yeah, if you load your own rule set, then you would use this as the base image. So you would have your own Docker file that uses Jinaga Replicator as the base image. You wouldn't use Jinaga Replicator do not use in production as a base image. You would only use that image for this little, get me up and running, let me play around with this thing. So yeah, I see people running this to have their own replicator, and then they start writing their React code against it and say, oh, okay, yeah, this works, or their .NET code against it. They can even have this running and then have a polyglot notebook that's pointing to it, and hey, I can read and write from this replicator using Jinaga.net. And then once they are ready to start working on an actual application, they've kind of modeled out their model a little bit. Then they can generate their rule set files, and so yeah, this would be the do not use in production, and then they would go to this form. So now they are using Jinaga Replicator, not the do not use in production, and mounting their own rules. Yeah. So they develop that way for a little bit, and then they say, okay, now I really want to deploy this to my environment. I could continue to do it this way if I want to mount a production folder to the replicator, and then I can just deploy rules to the folder. That could be my deployment mechanism. Or I could go all the way to creating my own Docker file, having a build pipeline where I build the rules and then rebuild the image, and then deploy a container for that image. So it gives you those options. Okay, so the question is, what do rules look like? So let's go back here, and let's say I want to open up Jinaga.js. So let's take a look at this one, and I also want to get the latest here. So get pull with 2 L's. Boom. There we go. And npm CI. I don't think I changed any dependencies here, but I need to update my my npmrc. Is that npmrc? No, that's something in here. Tells you what versions of Node this supports. Interesting. Okay, there might be some maintenance to do here. But if we look at the tests now, we've got tests for rules. Here's the rule spec. And so in here we can see what these rules look like. let me go down to an interesting one. Yeah, here we go. So if we load from description, we can load authorization rules, distribution rules. And so the authorization rules are expressed with any, no, or a specification. So this one says that anybody can create a Jinaga.userFact, which is typically the way that you want to run things, because Jinaga.user is just a public key. Anybody should be able to say, hey, I know about this user with this public key. Great. And then now you can interact with that user fact. Distribution. Well, let's say that we want to share these messages, the messages from this user, only with that user.
Okay.
So we can load that, and then when we write it back out, then it writes those rules, authorization and distribution rules. And here we are. Yeah, here we are merging rule sets. So suppose one file has this, the other file has that. So I am not going to authorize server requests. That's supposed to be in a rule set that's only used by my backend. So, so we say no server request from the mobile application. And then here I want to distribute all announcements from this user to everyone. So share all those with everyone. That means anybody, even if they're not authenticated, can run that specification against this replicator. Grab a feed and pull all those announcements. So if we merge those, then we get to these two authorization rules and these two distribution rules merged in that rule set. So that is what the file that you need to ship with your application looks like. Now, you're over here in Jinaga.net. So let's, there we go. Let's open up, yeah, we want to close that LeetU stuff.
Because that is pure on the replicator. So actually the .NET, nothing has to be changed on .NET.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, the .NET application is just going to talk to that replicator. It's going to publish facts into it. It's going to fetch from feeds, so it's going to load from it. And it's going to be subject to those rules. So you might want to express those rules in .NET so that you can then publish them to your replicator. And that is possible. So if I go to the, where is this? Yeah, Maui, it's not Maui program, is it? No, it's Jinaga config. That's where it is. So in here, in addition to setting up the Jinaga client, all that fun stuff, this also sets up the authorization and distribution rules for this model. And you can see 0 references. I'm not actually using those things in this model, or in this this application. Now I could, I think, use them in unit tests. I think I've got that working for both authorization and distribution rules. So if you load them into your unit test, then the unit test will fail if you run a specification that doesn't conform to the distribution rules, or if you create a fact that doesn't conform to the authorization rules. So that's a useful way to test your rules before you even deploy a replicator. That's a great development experience. It's like, okay, let's add something to my view model, testing my view model through unit tests, and the unit test fails. Oh, that's because I forgot to add the authorization rule to support that view model. So come up here, add that authorization rule. So I'm sharing this specification with these users, and make that test pass. And then I want to actually deploy those rules to the replicator. So to do that, I would, let's find, right here in Jinaga.net, we've got thought that I had, this is where that search feature that you were asking about could come in handy. Yeah, I believe that I
you have
had
to check all the pages
Yeah.
for the search.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I haven't put it up here yet, but this is what you would end up doing. Let's go back to PowerShell, and then we're going to go to Jinaga samples and blog Maui, and then in here you've got .NET Jinaga. Is it just .NET Jinaga? Yeah. So .NET Jinaga, you can deploy authorization, deploy distribution. You know what? I thought I had another command. Maybe I need to update Jinaga. So let's see, .NET install -g Jinaga, or tool. .NET tool, it's no-g, that's npm, tool install. Cannot find a manifest file. Let's see. .NET tool list. Yeah. Where have I got this documented? I know I documented it somewhere. It's probably in the in the NuGet package itself. So yeah, here's Jinaga tool. Okay, there's the command. .NET tool install global Jinaga tool. All right. Have to get that documented on Jinaga.net. Okay, so now it was updated from 9.0 to 9.1. 090 to 091. So now if I do a .NET Jinaga, I can see the new options. There we are. So I can deploy authorization rules, deploy distribution rules. I can print authorization, print distribution. I'm going to need to add another one to this where I can just print the whole rule set. But if I say .NET Jinaga print authorization, and then I give it an assembly. So I say blog Maui, and I want to say bin debug, and let's do the Mac Catalyst one. Yeah, blog Maui DLL. So if I do that, then it's going to execute the rule description here for, I did authorize, so I got the authorization rules. So executed that code, compiled it into this authorization specification there. So now I can take this as just a build step. I can make that part of my pipeline. So after it builds it, runs the unit tests, then it will output the authorization rules and put that into a rule file. So if I add another one here that's just print rules, then it'll do authorization and distribution. distribution. And boom, got all the distribution rules. So yeah, as a .NET developer, you wouldn't want to maintain this file and your .NET code. But by generating this file from your .NET code, you can also use your .NET code, these specifications in unit tests. Make it part of the build pipeline, build a new image, and then you can deploy those images and you've got your new rules. That is the vision. And that vision is really close.
He allows already to load them inside the replicator.
Yes.
Well, that's not...
Yes. Yeah, so that would be... Yeah. That would be what this this code in this branch does. So if you follow these instructions and cross your fingers, then it might actually work. So we could try this out. How much time we got? We got 10 minutes. We can try this out. Okay, so let's take the authorization rules and pipe that out to, yeah, so I am in Windows right now. I will want to, I can still do the Docker commands in Windows, that's fine, yeah. So, actually before I pipe it out, let me make a directory out here called rules, and then I will pipe these out to rules blog.rules. Let's just make sure that I called it .rules. Yeah, copy .rule. I called them .rule. Maybe I should change that. Anyway, so we've got blog.rule there, and then if I come back here and I do the authorization, and is it to? I think it's to append. And now I can say, oh, why did I do that out one? That should have been right here. Yeah, anyway, I'll move it later. So now I should have a rule file, blog.rule. It's got distribution rules in it. It's got authorization rules in it. Yes. So I think I'll still add rules here to make this simpler, but it could just be these two commands in your pipeline. Okay, so let's just navigate into that rules folder. Yeah, so there we are. And then let's also, in Ubuntu, let's go to Jinaga Replicator, and let's build this image. I've not even built this image yet. So we are in Jinaga Replicator, and that's the command for that one. I know I put a little cheat in here so that I can remember how to do this for me. Yeah, build and run. So Docker build, Jinaga Replicator latest. I'm not going to call it latest. I'm going to call it, I'll give it a test label. So test rules. What's going on? Am I not running Docker right now? I thought that I had already done stuff that requires Docker. But, yeah. Docker Desktop is starting up. Yeah, I thought that I was running WSL in a Docker container. All right. So now run them. Build it. Da, da, da. And so, oh, interesting. Failed to solve process bin sh run build did not complete successfully. Interesting. I wonder. Yeah. So let me go back to. Actually, I am here. Yeah, npm run build. So that's. Yeah, maybe that's a prerequisite for creating the container or the image. No. Okay. So this is not going to work in the next 10 minutes. 5 minutes.
Murphy is back.
Yep. But hey, it's still on a branch. I still have time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, it was perhaps a little bit too optimistic to. No, but already it's a very nice idea to have these rule sets in an easy way to apply them to a replicator.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And yeah. So yeah, this would support the enterprise model. This would support a open source developer. Yeah. And yeah, so the thing that would be still missing now is authentication. So your certainly your first replicator needs to be authenticated using something like OAuth. So your website or mobile application users need to authenticate with that one. But then also your internal replicators, I would want them to be authenticated using an API key or using OAuth. There's a flow that's just client credentials, the client credentials flow. So that way you can authenticate as, hey, I am the backend service. So I can run these specifications in order to get just these things. So yeah, still need to figure out how to allow you to put your own authentication mechanism into your image, and that probably will be a creator derived image kind of a thing. But yeah, still some reasoning through tweaking.
That's what you will be thinking about the last days of the year.
Yes. Yes, it'll be awesome. And hopefully what I will be able to publish by the end of the year is a Docker Compose file that puts a bunch of replicators together with different sets of rules and demonstrates that they are they're all working together and sharing facts according to those rules.
Okay, so every replicator its own rule set.
Yep.
Different, and then see that if you give certain facts to replicate, that the does not send them to the other one, or the other one doesn't accept them, things like that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So that way
Mm.
you can create a little firewall and say, okay, only only these rules that are supposed to be visible to the public are allowed into this replicator, and now I can put that replicator behind a public website. Whereas this one, it's for mobile app users, and so it's got the authorization and distribution rules for their fax. That one is for a backend service, so it's got a narrower set, and now you're controlling where the information can flow and where it can come from, giving you just that extra layer of security. If somebody is able to execute code on on one of those machines, it still would be locked down what it could accomplish.
And then with the export functionality, you can prove that the facts are really there or not there.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
Okay, that would be. Then we have a complete server park, a data center of replicators.
Yep. Yep. That's what I want to show is possible. Yeah. Build out an entire microservices architecture without deploying code to the infrastructure. Just deploy code to the edge. Might be the forward-facing edge, might be the backward-facing edge, but it's still at the edge.
You were talking about a recording that you wanted to make for next week, I think.
Yeah, that would be next week. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's not going to be
Demonstrating
that
this
one.
stuff, yeah, demonstrating this stuff would be a great recording. But yeah, who knows? We'll see how far I can get down that path. Yeah, I'll have to look back through what what recordings I have, and would it make sense to do a just a single video on this is what a Jinaga mobile application looks like, or I might do a recording on Blazor. We haven't actually talked about Blazor because you're not going to be using Blazor, at least not right off the bat. But yeah, so maybe I can demonstrate Jinaga working in a Blazor application. Yeah, that'd be interesting too. Let's see.
I will see on YouTube what you come up with. So next week recording. The week after that was let's see. So next week is the 26th. The week after is the 2nd of January.
Yeah, so I will be back live on the 2nd of January.
Okay. I should be back also then. No problem.
All right.
All right. Then Michael, have a good end of the year.
Thank you.
A lot of fun with the children coming home.
Yes, that's going
A
to be
lot
a
of
good
party.
time.
A lot of party, but be careful.
Yes, it'll all be party inside the house.
Okay. Then see you live next year.
Yes, indeed. See you next year.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.